Hello, everyone. First and foremost, if at all possible, please join your science class to complete this lab with your class because you're going to learn a lot more, get to see a lot more cool things. Please join your live science class if at all possible. If something has come up that you have not, and this is your backup, this is your last resort, well, thank you for learning today. What we are learning about is pH today. So, what we're going to be doing is going through and determining the pH of the different substances. You really are going to want this as a paper copy. So, even if you're going to recreate this just like the charts, write down the variables, and then this chart and answer these questions on a blank piece of paper, that would be perfect. You don't necessarily need to have every single word that's on this page. If at all possible, make that a paper copy. If you have access to printing, great. If you don't, make it onto a paper copy if at all possible, because we're going to need to write on here a few times. So the first one is going in, and this is the hypothesis. So you need to decide, is this going to be an acid, base, or neutral? What do you think? This is your ideas before you start the lab, not when you do the lab and then you come back and answer these at the end. These are not necessarily right or wrong, but do give these your best ideas because we want to see kind of what do we think is an acid, base, or neutral, maybe based on your own experiences, and we're using what we've learned in class so far. So we had that pH reading or pH slideshow that we went through. This is what's going to be useful for that. So take a minute, pause this video if you need to. So then coming back and moving on, some variables that we're looking at as what is our independent variable, what is our dependent variable, and what are some controlled variables. If we go back, the purpose of this lab is to determine the pH of various substances. So I've got a little reminder here. What is the one thing we are changing? Write that down. Hint, hint. What are the different types of substances do we have? What is the one thing we are observing? If we go up to the purpose, what is the one thing we are wanting to observe? And then what are some things that we're going to want to keep the same throughout this experiment? Now, this is where you really want to join class live because otherwise you're just going to see like a virtual version of this. So please join your science classroom if at all possible live. So then our directions, just a real quick video here. Open this link that's up at the top, and what you're going to do to change the substances, there's a drop down at the top of the screen. Use the little dropper in the middle to fill up the container. There's a green little circle. You're going to move the pH meter over to the faucet, pull the blue lever at the drain, watch what the pH reading is, write it down. Is it a strong, medium, weak, acid, neutral, or strong, medium, weak, base? And then continue. So we'll do this very first one together. It's drain cleaner. So when I go to this link, here's that drop down that was being talked about. So there's that drain cleaner. Here's that red button, and I'm going to fill up this container. Now, when we're thinking about things that we're keeping the same, what are we going to do for this test to make sure these are all the same? I mean, we don't have cross-contamination because this is a computer model. It's not an actual substance necessarily that we have, but the pHs are going to be correct. Please do not play with the water. That's not going to give you an accurate read. But then once you've filled up your container, here is that green spot, and if it's not close to the bottom here, make sure you do, because this is just like a little pH meter read. It's kind of a more fancy one, like if you were in an actual like super science lab. And then here's that blue little handle we're going to pull, and when we pull this, we're going to look for what this pH read says. So when I pull it, it's telling me that it's at 13 there. So when I stop it, it's done. That's where I get that 13. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to type in that there was a reading of 13. And then, is that going to be a strong, medium, or weak base? Well, if we go back here, we've got basic and acidic. Remember, the middle is neutral. So the farther away from neutral we get, the more acidic or the more basic. If it's a 13, it's almost maxing out the pH scale. So this is going to be a strong base, which you would actually, I'm hoping that you have this as a paper copy that you can just type that in there then. And then as you finish up, so you'll do that with all of these. And then there's a question. On a salad with purple or red cabbage in it, the color changes to pink when the dressing is added. Was the dressing an acid or a base? Now there's a little bit of a help here. If it turned kind of a pinky red, this is similar to the colors like pH paper might turn, or like the most basic, if there's like litmus paper. So it would be turning. You can look there. And then you're going to need to place these on the number line or the line. You're going to probably have more than one for some numbers, and you're going to have some that don't have match up with a number, and that's okay. This is where it's going to be kind of more important that you've done this as a paper copy so it fits on here nicer. Or if you just need to fill out this part to make it a little bit nicer, the best would please be joining your science classroom. So this is where I'm stopping. You are on your own after this. Please let your history or your science teacher know, though, if you have any questions. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.